go. Side stitches are back.
Yeah, we took an accidental break from these, didn't we?
I mean, it was only a week long, but yeah, we
Yeah.
had such a damn fun time with Batman. We probably could have spent even longer, but we chose to cut ourselves off at 2 episodes.
Probably, yeah. We if we weren't careful, we could have ended up with like a legitimate Batman week where it's like, okay, so here's the deal. We have like 4 episodes worth of Batman, and we will just play them 4 different times of the week. But thankfully we held back
Yeah,
and left it to just two.
We have 4 3-hour episodes ready to go. The ultimate the ultimate Snyder, digital dissection cut. But hey, one thing I did want to mention, because we keep saying, hey, folks, use the comment section. It's there. It exists.
Yeah.
Review us. Folks aren't doing it yet, and I get it. You put your name out there. It's scary. But guess what? We are going to recognize our top fan since day one.
Yep, that's right.
His name is Roy Sutcliffe. Roy, we appreciate you liking our posts. We appreciate you, commenting, giving us ideas. And we want to see, more Roys out there.
Yeah, we're asking you all to find your inner Roy, to harness him, become him, comment, like, subscribe, do the Roy way. And maybe Roy will achieve Lee status like Tenacious D, and he may just get a song about him. It won't be like Lee level, because we'll be writing it and that's not in our wheelhouse to my knowledge, but we'll do it. It's either a threat, a promise, or a reward. I'm not sure which one.
I'm pretty sure at this point Roy can float. He doesn't even have to walk anymore. That's the level of fandom that he's achieved with this podcast in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, so, like to us, Roy's basically walking on water, and we're really happy we have him.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Usually whenever we release an episode, we're like, yeah, you know what? 3 people are probably going to watch or listen to this week. But you know what? The first person to typically like it is Roy. So,
and for folks, that, we thank you.
Roy. Yes, Roy, we thank you. And to dive into this side stitch, since we took a week break, just in case those of you are still pining for these little side topics that we like to do, this week we're going to actually talk a little bit about Supernatural. So if you actually listen until the end of these shows, we do tell you what's going to come up the next week. And Supernatural obviously had 15 seasons of content. There's a lot of stuff there we just couldn't cover. And one of the simplistic things we wanted to do is dive a little bit into the monsters of Supernatural. So once again, there's a ton of monsters on this show.
Yeah, there really are. And I mean, they sometimes they dig so deep for monsters. Like they went to places where you didn't think they would even go. Like they do such a good job of going with like usually like established lore for monsters. And eventually, like they just hit things that you didn't think would really match with those. Like I remember they did a dragon episode. It's like, well, how do you do dragons on Supernatural? And they managed to pull it off in a particular way. They even had a phoenix on Supernatural, which I think we talked about in the main episode this week. But yeah, out of 15 seasons, there was just like, I mean, it was beyond a rogues gallery worth of monsters for us to choose from.
Oh geez, there was like I mean, if there's a term that's bigger than a gallery, I mean, I think that's really what we should call it, because or maybe a revolving door of monsters. I don't know.
A cavalcade, maybe?
Yeah, an IKEA warehouse of monsters. Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor of this podcast, IKEA.
Well, I think what they did really well here in the beginning, the first episode ties into one of the most popular global phenomena when it comes to like ghosts and the cryptozoology world. And that would be the Lady in Lady in White, otherwise known as La Llorona, aka Ghastly Lady in White, aka Backroad Spectre, aka the Howling Woman, or aka the Ghost Karen. And this is who the first episode would talk about.
But I have a feeling that's not an official one, but true, still true.
Just because I said it, I think we're going to go with it, right?
I think so. And if someone wants to complain about it, we will make sure to get that message directly to our producer.
Yeah. I'm actually motioning to her right now, our producer that doesn't exist. She is actually going to check the emails for people's comments right now on that, the comments that they're not filling out.
Yep, bringing back all the jokes we haven't used in a few weeks tonight. Pretty great.
Well, I thought The Woman in White was a really good way to kick off this series because,
Hmm.
the Lady in White, I mean, once again, global phenomena. Almost every culture has some kind of Lady in White, lore of some
Hmm.
kind. Whether that's the standard, which is a wife whose husband cheats on her, and as an act of revenge, she drowns her children, which is also what the show ends up doing here. And then by the time she realizes that, what have I done? She's, screaming, saying, "My babies, I've killed my babies." And that's where the howling woman or the screeching woman comes from, right?
Yeah, very
Like that,
is
yeah.
isn't that is there like root in like is that Medea, Greek mythology where that happens?
Well, I mean, this
Hmm.
is this is prevalent. Like, there's a
Hmm. Yeah, it's
story in
like
almost
it's global. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
every major culture, like over thousands of years. I mean, the most like recent and popular takes on this would be, I mentioned, La Llorona, which is the
Hmm.
like Latin America, Hispanic view of it, which is, in some ways it's a like a specter that's basically like in the water,
Hmm.
and it's used as like a cautionary tale for children, like, be careful in the water because she can pull you down, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's not specific to Latin America by any means. That's just
No, no,
one,
no.
popular
Yeah.
interpretation. But yeah, I mean, they used it to similar effect in Supernatural, where it's the traditional sense of a woman scorned who, um, yeah, unfortunately drowns her kids in the bathtub. And I mean, I think it just made a lot of
Hmm.
sense to kick off the series with that specific instance. But one of the interesting things I found about the Lady in White was the fact that in 1859 it would actually be tied into Charles Dickens. If you remember
Oh,
our
really?
popular,
Hmm.
yeah, our popular author in years past. So
Hmm.
he actually ran a serialized journal. So for those who have listened to the last few episodes, we've talked about serials before, which are these. In this case, it wasn't TV. Obviously, this is a printed thing, but you end up having a series of stories that are collected and presented to you over time. And so this journal was called All the Year Round, and it would end up featuring a novel by, I believe the name was, I think it's like Wilby Collins, or Wilkie Collins, I think. Either way, the story was called The Woman in White, and it actually kind of ushered in this like modern age of, I think they called it sensational fiction. So this is the kind of stuff that would talk about murder and
Ooh.
melodrama and crimes, like the fictional true crimes of the 1800s.
Oh, yeah. It's like the Penny Dreadfuls before the Penny Dreadfuls.
You're totally dead on. That's exactly what we're talking here. And so, in a lot of ways, this was people recognizing that even though this is the modern age, we're still just as uncivilized as our animalistic brethren.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh.
so this would actually pop up in that serial, and it would end up kind of being like our first. I don't know if you want to call it like the first literary
Hmm.
exploration of this, but I just always thought that was cool that no matter where you go, there's a Lady in White story kind of poking around.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really true with a lot of like monster lore and crypto lore through the planet. It's interesting where like they will have a lot of similarities and a lot of like same like reasoning behind like the creatures or the spirits being there, but then they'll always have a local twist to them. And
Hmm.
that's where like to me like where werewolves come in very, very well. um
Ooh.
yeah, another supernatural favorite with werewolves. And they are known for basically like their brutal killing of whatever it is that they're doing. Vampires are like kind of like the civilized version of the monster. Not I don't say civilized version, but more civilized monster, where there's like, they drink your blood, you become a vampire, everything's great, you sparkle and you live forever. But werewolves, like they tear you to shreds. Um, Specifically in Supernatural, they go for the heart. And this is just kind of like I tried looking it up and looking at this, and this is pretty much just a supernatural thing. And I think it was an inexpensive way just to comment on the savagery that werewolves usually have associated with them. Because like traditionally, like there's always something like very, very savage with when it comes to wolves. And I think that's when you look at like Europe. for that reasoning, is because like they pick off like the weak, they pick off the injured, they always work together,
Yeah.
and they just tear the thing apart as while it's still alive. And werewolf stories, like for wolves specifically, like they go back all the way to like the Epic of Gilgamesh, where you have Gilgamesh actually turns away a woman because he finds out that she had gotten very mad at her previous lover, because I think he cheated on her. So he turned him into a wolf and sent him out into the wild.
Oh my.
Otherwise, this also happened in Greek mythology, where it was I think it's Lycan is the name of the
Yeah.
character,
Yep.
where he served a meal to Zeus that turned out was a sacrificed boy, and that made
Oh.
Zeus just furious. Like, no, my sacrifices are always women, whether alive or dead. Don't bring me dudes. So he turns Lycan and his boys into wolves and sends them away. Um,
That reminds me of like the coffee crystals commercial
mhm.
back in the day. Like the person, they SNL parodied this where Chris Farley
Oh
finds
yeah.
out he's got the
Mhm.
coffee crystals in his cup, and he's like, "What?"
What? And he just goes nuts and starts like beating up everyone in the restaurant.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the visual I just
Mhm.
had when you talked about Zeus. Like he just is flipping out,
It's like,
and
what? But
yeah,
this is boy?
yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I did not want
Mhm.
boy for my dinner
No,
tonight. Thank you.
never. And so we go from that. Like if we jump further ahead to like the 16th century, um, yeah, we'll go to the 16th century, and then we'll take a step back. There are actually three French like serial killers who claimed to be able to turn into wolves, and that also just kind of adds to the savagery behind the legend. Two of them, Pierre Bourgeot and Michael Verda, I believe his last name is pronounced.
Mhm.
They supposedly sold their souls to Satan for the ability to turn to wolves, and that's why they said they had brutally killed, I think a couple people, or a small family. And then there's also Giles Garnier, who is in the 16th century as well. Just again brutally murdered someone, and he just claimed he could turn into a wolf for it.
There was a moment there, Joe, where I
Mhm.
thought you were going to say that the other two were still alive somehow.
Yeah, they're still out
Because
there, still in
oh,
France.
still
No,
killing folks. If you've got
no,
a body with bite marks on it and it's been ripped to shreds,
no.
it could be time
Yeah,
traveling
it's
werewolves.
yeah, it's Pierre and Michael still out there doing their thing. Um, other than that, another noticeable one was the Bedburg Wolf of Germany. This was Peter Stubble or Stubble, Stube. I'm not really
Stublé.
good.
Let's,
Stuble. I'm going with Stuble. It's not German, but it's going to be for tonight. But basically, this man just gets blamed for killing like farm animals, men, women, children, like several people, and he ends up confessing under torture that he did it and that he turned into a wolf because of a magic belt. And of course, the belt's never found. And this man is basically just more or less the victim of a witch hunt, or in his case, it's a wolf hunt. But uh,
huh.
more popularly, here in our home state of my home state of Wisconsin, your current home of Wisconsin.
I was born but not raised in
There we
Wisconsin,
go.
so
Mhm.
I still consider this my home. I pay taxes here.
Yeah, that counts for more than enough.
Yeah.
But here we actually have probably the most famous North American werewolf, and that is the Beast of Bray Road,
Oh yeah.
also known as the Bluff Monster, aka Eddie. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, commonly thought
Well,
of as a werewolf, but not the only thing it's gone by.
Joe, I was happy you brought this
Mhm.
up because this region, all the way up to Quebec and down to Louisiana,
Mhm.
has an obsession with werewolf lore. Okay. So you might remember in Supernatural, there's a creature called the Ruguru,
Oh yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. So after a certain point in time, usually around 30 years old, a person who is a Ruguru will basically begin to metamorph into what is this beastly werewolf style creature.
Mhm.
So the Ruguru has been, pretty much a story that French settlers have been telling for hundreds of years. So, like I mentioned, specifically up in Quebec and
Good
down
old
to French
Quebec.
Louisiana. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and down to French Louisiana. So we're talking about several hundred years of conversations about, the Ruguru, aka the Lukuru, the
Ooh.
Rugaru, aka werewolf, aka ill-tempered hairy individual. So yeah, dude, the
Hmm.
Ruguru slash werewolf. I mean, we just love it here in the Central,
Yeah, it's our
Standard
thing.
Time.
And then even like the Beast of Bray Road, like it gets confused with other legends like skinwalkers who are also in supernatural. Which again, that's another First Nations belief of these people who could shapeshift into animals like wolves or really anything else they wanted to. Um, but our home state crypto hero has also been confused for a Wendigo, another supernatural monster, and
Mhm.
the good old fashioned Bigfoot uh, has been he's been accused of being. But if you're unfamiliar with the Beast Road, it is in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, actually very close to where we went to college in
Yeah.
Whitewater. And actually, with my first roommates I had in Whitewater, he had a '66 Impala. It was red, not black. It was
Nice.
it was close, but we literally had a supernatural night where he'd left Whitewater already, and he drove to Whitewater's Impala, and we literally went and got cheeseburgers at like 2 in the morning from McDonald's, drove his Impala to Elkhorn, and drove on Bray Road, looking to see if we could see anything out there. And of course, there's nothing there except the people who live there. But I mean, stories for the Beast of Bray Road go back all the way to the state's founding, like in the 1840s, of this
Yeah.
thing that would just like harass people and then leave. It's never like
And
really been
isn't
accounted to killing
yeah.
anyone though, or even really attacking anyone.
Well, maybe that's it, Joe. Maybe the people that it did kill, no one knew about because it's killed so many people that
Yeah,
there's no witnesses.
yeah. Dead men tell no tales.
Yeah, it's
So he's
not killed
also a
like
pirate.
and it's not killing for sport. It's killing to survive,
No, it's no
feasting.
Shia LaBeouf.
Well, you know what, Joe? The obsession or I guess the cultural relevance of the
Hmm.
werewolf in this area, or a pseudo werewolf, whatever you want to call it, the prevalence of this kind of hit a fever pitch down in New Orleans
Hmm.
in recent memory when the Hornets, the NBA, franchise, the Hornets moved into
Oh
town.
yes.
They almost became the New Orleans Ruguru.
Oh no way. That'd been fun. I
Dude, I
would
would have
back that
loved.
100%. Yeah.
I would have
Hmm.
became an NBA fan overnight. Like I would dress up as a werewolf. You betcha. Let's do it.
Like just have a whole like crowd of werewolves that they've got their shirts off. They've got werewolf spelt out over like 8 dudes. Or I
Yeah,
mean, did I get that right? Is it 8 letters? Oh my god, I think it is. I
dude.
am so good just by
And
guessing.
and
Um,
imagine the intimidation factor of trying to do a free throw, and you've got people howling at you the entire
oh,
time.
that'd have been so good.
Well, it's
You
not. It's
missed
just not the.
opportunity.
It's just not the same when people are going like. Bzzz. It's like, yep, I
No.
can. I'm almost. I'm relaxed. I'm
Mhm.
relaxed hearing
It,
the buzz sounds.
is my phone going off? I can check it later. It's fine.
Yeah, dude. I totally love this idea of the werewolf slash
Hmm.
Ruguru because they do split this up in supernatural. They're different things.
They
You
do.
know,
Hmm.
the whole idea though of these folks who have the ability to transform into other creatures. Usually, it's not a voluntary thing.
No, no, not a, no,
Yeah.
you get attacked by it. And again, globally, like you have were animals across the globe. And depending on where you are, your were animal basically functions the same as the wolf, where it's just kind of a brutal killer, and people usually see it as like it kills um like the innocent or like the helpless. And so you get like where I think where jaguars in Africa, I think different Asian countries have other cat-based were animals, typically were tigers or other were cats. But yeah, so it's
Mhm.
across the globe. It's wherever you have things that are seen as weak or helpless getting killed by other animals. That brutality is just someone can become that in the event of a brutal murder.
See, if I were ever one of these supernatural creatures, the
Hmm.
werecat would probably be my spirit animal. Except I wouldn't be like a vicious killer. I'd be like,
Hmm.
I'd be called Chungus, and I'd just be a really fat cat. Yeah, that's
Oh.
that's the hunting grounds of the
Mhm.
Chungus. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of discarded candy bar wrappers in that area. I want to stay
Mhm.
away.
uh And then out there somewhere is like the equivalent of, I'm guessing that that cartoon cat from the old like Janet Jackson videos is just another were animal. It's not, was never really a cartoon. It's just out there somewhere dancing to this day.
I'm not upset about that if that were the case.
He has a really cool name. I've forgotten it, and I feel really bad about it.
Dude, those brain cells are fried, man.
Gone.
Yeah. The 80s were rough for Joe and I both because we were 4-year-olds
Yep.
and not drug users.
Do not recall a whole lot from that first 4 years.
You know what I do recall quite a bit of, Joe, is
What's that?
the religious significance of certain things in supernatural.
Ooh.
You know, in the upcoming episode, we're going to talk about angels and demons a little bit, but one of the things I wanted to focus on specifically, and we do talk a little bit about this, is the concept of the Leviathan.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because this thing has, once again, cultural relevance. We're talking thousands of years. But the Leviathan, since we've been kind of talking about all the different names you might know us by, it's also known as the sea serpent, aka the water dragon, aka the sea monster, and aka darkness, but with teeth. And so it's a rather interesting one.
You see, I always knew him as Dick. Yeah. Please,
Dick Roman.
Dick.
Yeah, like the head Leviathan in Supernatural's name is Dick Roman, and he's like this political candidate, CEO of this this like food distribution company that helps enslave all of the folks of the world. Very similar to the movie The Stuff, if you've never seen the Stuff. That's what that whole series is kind of based on.
Very adamant about his name being Dick as well. He'll be like, they'll be interviewing like, so Mr. Roman, he'll be like, please, Dick.
Yeah, please. Call me Dick. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I thought the Leviathan storyline was it was I thought the origins of it were great because once again, we've got thousands of years of Leviathan interpretations, whether it's from the Hebrew peoples, the Mesopotamians, Christianity, there's East Asian cultures as well. I mean, pretty much anybody who lives near a body of water has some kind of Leviathan myth or storytelling behind it.
Yeah, just that inherent fear of the deep has like just been really like, you just grasp people who live near the water, and then you just get something in there. You don't know it's there. You know it's there. You don't see it, but you know it's there, and it's terrifying.
Joe, it's just like wiping after fajitas night. You don't know what you're going to see.
Oh God.
Okay, that's what the deep waters are, man. We have no idea what's down there after a certain point. I mean,
not the analogy I was expecting. Not going to lie. Yeah, but
sorry, folks.
I'm glad we went there because someone had to.
Well, but there are many movies and like popular properties that have gone into what could potentially lie beneath like the Marianas Trench, and so there's a lot of folks who have thought about how to scare themselves with the depths of the ocean. So this isn't like something that we just kind of came up with. Like, I think we've just always been terrified about what's in the darkness, Cthulhu, that kind of stuff. But I mean, in Christianity, though, I mean, they talk about Leviathan in Psalms, Isaiah, Job, like all of these books are.
Yeah, does it come up in Exodus as well too? Because don't they talk about it like feasting on Behemoth and Goliathan? Behemoth and Leviathan. Goliathan. Look at me mixing things together.
Hey, you're smashing words. It's like smuttle,
smuttle
for those long-term listeners of this show.
Roy's out there.
Yeah,
you remember smuttle.
Roy's sitting in his recliner, like me, swirling the chocolate milk in a wine glass, and he's going, smuttle.
And now we've entered the part of the episode where Roy, just like Lee, has become afraid of Tenacious D because they now follow him too much. Sorry, Roy. We're big fans.
Well, hey, to get back on topic, what you actually mentioned is kind of an interesting background of Leviathan, because you've mentioned Leviathan and Behemoth. Okay. So these are both, like religious constructs that we've seen in this area of the world. So think Middle East. And what I think people are really trying to talk about in terms of parallels here would be the crocodile of the Nile River and the hippopotamus, because these are the two ideas where you kind of have very similar traits. So Leviathan, crocodile; Behemoth, hippopotamus. So they're prevalent in the area. and they're prevalent within the religions that are also coming out of this area.
Yep. And hippopotamus, terrifying, by the way.
Yes.
Big, massive, kill more things than anything else in Africa. And by the way, to let you know they're mad at you, the last warning sign is they start pooping and flinging it with their tails everywhere, just flailing poop. And then they eat you.
And you know what? We could even link that in the episode for this if y'all want to see that, because it's been documented in many zoos. Even though it's terrifying, it's also very, very funny. I'm sorry. I've watched it. I've cracked up every time.
I just have to think, like, how did that trait evolve? Like, where did that start and how is it effective? I mean,
poop as a defense?
Yeah, poop as a defense.
I mean, honestly, Joe, I'm happy we didn't evolve that trait, because I mean, I could think of better ways to intimidate someone, but hey, you know what? If it worked for the hippo this long, clearly they got something right.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But well, and that's kind of the idea of the Leviathan, is that it was actually used a lot within some of these religious texts as a display of quote unquote God's power. And Leviathan is always talked about in an intimidating way, but that God says, yeah, like Leviathan is, it can kill the shit out of you, but guess what? I can kill the Leviathan. So we need you to still be compliant to the rules of this religion, right? And so the Leviathan is used in some texts as a cautionary tale, I suppose, for just how powerful God is. One of the things about the Leviathan I always thought was terrifying was that in some of the texts, Leviathan is said to be 300 miles in length.
Ooh.
So just to give you guys a little bit of a description here, or at least a way to visualize this, the United States from coast to coast is 2,800 miles. Wisconsin is 311 miles in length. So Joe, if Leviathan decided to plop down in our state, yeah, dude, it'd be like having, like a 6'5" person in a twin size bed. Its feet are hanging off the end. That is what Leviathan would be like in our state.
And I mean, if you have to account for inflation from like the Middle Ages where this thing was written, Leviathan has to at least be from like us to Florida minimum.
Yeah, I'm assuming as fast food became prevalent, we eat more carbs. Yeah, Leviathan would be a thick boy at this point.
Huge thick boy. And also, I mean, him being the size of Wisconsin, what a Midwest comment to make. Oh gosh, dear, hey, he's the whole darn state. Let's go throw some more fat in the fryer and enjoy, yeah.
How much you think he could put down there? Hey, and you know what? One other thing I wanted to mention about the Leviathan now, Joe, since we're talking about some of our fans here, we do have a listener out in Uganda that I don't know how they found the show, but I'm happy that they did.
Yes.
And if Leviathan were to plop down in Uganda, it would take up, I think 63% of the country.
Oof.
In terms of how big that mother could be.
That's rough. Yeah. When you're left with 37% of your own country to inhabit after one person moves in. Wow.
Yeah, dude. That's why I, as a kid, because I was one of those children that found some of the really weird shit in the Bible. And Leviathan was just always one of those things that just scared the hell out of me, because I read one of these stories about Leviathan, and the description that I have actually sat with for over 30 years was this interpretation that's not really well documented on the internet. And it's that the Leviathan, from what the descriptions we had for the time period that I was reading this, was that it's just darkness of which you can see endless amounts of teeth.
Oof. Yeah, that's. Eesh.
And that's what scared the shit out of me as a kid. Was the idea that you're looking into the darkness and what's looking back at you is just serrated and thousands of teeth. Like that to me is scarier than a ghost.
Oh yeah.
It's scarier to me than crippling college debt. It's scarier to me than skinny jeans. Like the idea of a Leviathan. Yeah.
Oof. And as someone who's formerly worked at a Catholic school and has had to enforce dress code and then been told by girls it's unfair that they can't wear leggings, I'm like, hey, boys should, in my mind, shouldn't be wearing skinny jeans either. It's kind of the same thing. But if I see a guy in skinny jeans, he's calling home. That's unacceptable.
He's calling home. We're talking about Leviathan with his parents
Yeah.
later on because we got to
Mm-hmm.
find a way to intimidate. Um, one last parting note on Leviathan that I wanted to bring up
Mm-hmm.
though is that even within Christianity and some of these other religions, some claim that God created Leviathan just because he was playing around with some blueprints one day and went, whoa, whoa,
Oh, whoa, hey, whoops.
yeah, I did a little too much here.
Yep.
And so
Ooh.
in some religions, God kills off the female Leviathan, just keeps the male one as a plaything, so that they don't overrun, his creations.
Yeah.
Um, but other cultures think that it's actually a tool of the devil, and that the devil created
Oh.
Leviathan. Almost kind of like you mentioned in Greek mythology,
Mm-hmm.
how Hades, and Zeus have talked about the Kraken and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once again, it's the same type of idea that you can just relate to there or
Yeah.
visualize.
You
So
just get these different worldviews with the same stories, just kind of really feeding off of each other to make their legends and their belief systems. And
yeah,
speaking about weird shit in the Bible, have you heard about angels, Mark?
the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Well, there's them. They're there. Um, but they are not one of the typically accepted nine orders of angels, to
No,
my
okay.
knowledge. And that's where things get really weird because like growing up, but like basically like I was taught going to Catholic schools, like they're just angels, and you just assume like, okay, it's dudes with wings, and that's literally it. They're humans with wings. And it turns out that is like one order of angels, just one. Like that's like I don't want to say like the bottom rung, but that's like the ninth order. And they're the ones that are basically assigned to us to like just watch over us to make sure we don't like, do something really bad to ourselves. Like they're basically the equivalent of like what guardian angels are. Like that's their job. They just kind of watch us and do things. And in Supernatural, um, we really get exposed to really two types of angels. Let me take it back. Like three types of angels they talk about, to my knowledge, in Supernatural, and they have like the grunts like Castiel, and he's the equivalent of like a guardian angel. And then you have the archangels, and you have the cherubs. The cherubs, I think, get like one episode, and he's like this weird, emotionally vulnerable fat guy.
Yeah,
And they kind of like play off
he's
like,
na-
oh,
he's butt naked too,
yeah,
by the
butt
way.
naked the whole
Yeah,
time. And they played off like they're basically like where like the idea of like Cupid came from, or Eros, the Greek like love god. Basically are the cherubs. They like make people fall in love with each other. And on top of that, that's not even what cherubs actually do. So when you look into angels too, one fun thing that was said in Supernatural is they mention how like the angels have to possess people just like demons have to. And that's why people would see them as humans, but with like wings every once in a while, because their real forms are completely different. I think Castiel says he's actually the size of the Empire State Building when he's in
yeah, he
heaven.
yeah he says like 25 stories tall. Yeah,
Yep. And then I think Zachariah says like he has like five heads and one of them's a lion. Which that
yeah.
is the trait of a cherub. Cherubs have
Well,
multiple
traditionally,
heads. Yeah. Mhm.
traditionally cherubs have four faces.
Yep.
And so yeah, there's usually a face of a man.
Hmm.
There's a lion, an eagle, and then there's like a cow, or I think
Hmm.
ox is the oxen is what they usually say. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And these are like the second highest of the orders of angels. There's the seraphim are above them, and the seraphim are basically just wings on wings on wings. There's wings everywhere. Literally, when you see depictions of them in like any sort of like holy structure, it's literally one head surrounded by six wings, and the
yeah.
wings have eyes all over them. They're pretty creepy looking things. But basically, all they do is they surround God and they sing praises to him. Basically, these are God's hype men. They're
Yeah,
hanging
they,
around
they
God, saying, "You're freaking awesome, man. You get out there and you do you."
they got boom boxes. They're all wearing
Mhm.
high top sneakers. Um, so the
Mhm.
angels yeah, in the mythology you're talking about here. So there's actually three spheres, right? So you've
Mhm.
got first, second, and third sphere.
Yep.
When they were naming these, they didn't get all that creative.
No.
This
No.
wasn't like a Patreon level of
No.
membership or
Mm-mm.
anything. But yeah, totally. Yeah, there's different rankings of angels that we see in the show
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, and in the show, like we get archangels too, and archangels are just above the regular angels when it comes to like traditional like ordering of things. And but granted, like even though they're just above that, like they have like really big jobs though. Like they're basically like world-ending stuff is what the archangels are in charge of like keeping from happening, or in some cases making sure those world-ending things do happen. Um, and the Bible only names one archangel, and that's Michael. All you get a few other ones that are kind of assumed through other I think books of the Bible, just because they come up and they happen to have a prominent role to do something, so therefore they just kind of say that they're an archangel. I think that's like almost like a religious thing, like after years, like, oh, like this Asriel guy had a really big thing, and so did Jophiel and Gabriel, like they're really important, and then they just kind of were dubbed archangels as opposed to actually being um I guess written as them.
Well, there's only one other reference to an archangel, and the reason why I think this happens, Joe, is
Mm-hmm.
because within religious texts, you've got a lot of translations. You've
Yep.
got folks that prefer or give credence to a specific translation that they believe is the correct one, and
Mm-hmm.
so the only other book that's often omitted is the Book of Tobit, which refers to Raphael, who's an archangel as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and so you could tell though in Supernatural they're digging pretty deep into this. Like somebody
Mm-hmm.
clearly knew like what they were looking for within these levels of angels. And so yeah, you're right. Like they did pick out certain ones who have like these really, I'll just call them solid names, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
they're really solid, easy to remember names.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, like and so they use angels in this construct, and then they also mirror it with hell, because they also do the same things with like the grunts of hell. There's like the
Yeah.
knights of
Mm-hmm.
hell and the king of hell, and like so I thought they did a really interesting like way of balancing this out without making you have to be, I guess, a
A
student of
scholar,
religion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Another fun one I liked was Metatron, who comes in. I think is he season 6 is when he comes in. He's literally he's like the one after like the apocalypse like
Yeah,
season.
he's definitely, yeah, he's post-apocalypse.
Yep.
I
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if it's season 6 or if it's like 7, but yeah, he's definitely
Okay.
stirring shit though after
Yep.
the apocalypse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he comes in like in the book of Enoch, mentions Metatron as an archangel and says Metatron is the highest of all angels, which is kind of interesting, where he is now higher than Michael. He's even higher than the Seraphim, who were there again. Those are the hype men. Um, but it also says he is canonically not accepted as an archangel. So this is basically like saying we recognize you as a Jedi, however, not we don't grant you the title of master, sort
Yes.
of thing. And in the show, Metatron was like basically what disgraced from heaven after God disappears. So it's kind of fun that they weave that in. There's the whole like he's not canonically accepted, and that's actually in within like the hierarchy of heaven too. So he got literally like kicked out and what do I say, excommunicated by the angels themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Like isn't it interesting how the creators of Supernatural managed to create like a high school out
Mm-hmm.
of heaven,
They
and
really did. Mm-hmm.
and you've got all these squabbling, levels of angels. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I thought they did a really, and once again, it's also mirrored in hell. Like you've got the same
Yep.
squabbling going on in hell for different
Mm-hmm.
reasons. And so, yeah, I thought that was a
Really
really
good.
creative way to like
Mm-hmm.
show how these spiritual levels of attainment are handled. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
pretty
Although
funny.
I have to imagine though that like when they were writing and penning out the season where they actually go to heaven, and they're like you're seeing like the inner network of heaven, not just like the parts where like people with their souls end up. Because you find out in heaven where the way God had designed it was that when you die, you go to your like favorite memory of when you were alive, and you're just in that memory forever. And that's your personal, like heaven's basically personalized. And
Yeah.
when you there's an episode where you first get to go to heaven, where Sam and Dean go to heaven and they're in that memory. But then there's like other episodes where like, okay, well, what does heaven look like in between where the souls are? And that's where the angels are doing the inner working. I have to imagine that when they were writing that episode, there was one dude in the meeting who was like, wait, didn't we say the angels were like massive and also scary and terrifying looking? Like some of them are literally wheels made out of eyes.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we said that. Okay, how are we going to pull that off? I've got an idea. We're not going to fucking do that. We're just
Yes.
going to have people do it and call it a day.
Yep. And they'll just basically be in like these Apple stores. That's what it'll basically look like. Walking into the Apple store, that's what heaven's basically like for the administrative side
Brilliant.
of angels.
Done. Signed. Let's move forward.
Well, tell you what, I think it's as good a time as any to to probably move on and hope that folks enjoy the main episode of this week. Is going to be covering the 15 seasons of Supernatural. I'm actually happy that we returned to our side stitch. It was, I don't know, it wasn't like I was crying over it, but it felt a little weird. It felt a little weird.
A little weird, but it wasn't there. Like basically like a nice little tuck in for the night. That's what side stitches are. Just like, oh, one nice little extra thing there, and it was gone last week.
I prefer the untucked personally, though.
No, I'm talking. Yeah, I don't want like definitely. I don't like the tucked in at the end of the bed because like your feet are just trapped.
Yeah,
like there's no room there. They can't breathe.
There's no air going in or out. I mean, it's just uncomfortable.
No, not a fan of the tuck. No.
Kind of like looking into a darkness just full of serrated teeth.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Okay, maybe the side stitch is more like the chocolate on like the pillow after room service has like made its way through. And last week we just didn't get the chocolate. All right, we'll see you next week, Roy.
Yeah, Roy, thank you. And if you want to be mentioned in a future show, just be like Roy. You know what? Like, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things, and we look forward to talking to you guys next week.